far to the February accounting call. We do continue to plan on doing this monthly, probably right around the 20th to 25th of the month, which should theoretically be the slowest time for most properties. Not always, but that is hopefully the case. On my screen, for your delight, is Dilbert. I am a big fan of Dilbert. I don't necessarily love the artist, but I do like the comic itself. I'm not going to read it to you, though. I don't have that much faith in my ability to change my voice and convey the message effectively. But again, I just want to welcome everyone to this call. Last time, I think I upset some people with a Super Bowl prediction where I predicted that the Patriots would defeat the Seahawks. Everyone seemed to interpret that as me picking the Patriots as my favorite team or saying that the Seahawks sucked, which I did not say. I just was saying that I thought the Seahawks would lose, and they did, so I was right. So it's a good thing Meg is not on the call, because I'm sure she would be saying some things right now at me. So I apologize if anyone was upset by that last time. I always like to start my calls with a little informal things. I don't know. I think I could be wrong. I'm sure there's many on this call that can actually correct me, but I think The Bachelor is finishing up right now. I always know when it's the date for The Bachelor because the Facebook feed suddenly becomes a big status update of Bachelor and pictures of glasses of wine and things like that. Bachelor doesn't really do it for me. I'm more of a Survivor person. So if you ever want to, after the first week of Survivor when it starts up, give me your predictions. We can see if any of us are right by the end of the show. So don't really like The Bachelor. Survivor more my gig. Finally, last non-work related thing is we have baseball starting up. I am a baseball nut. I'm an Oakland A's fan. Many of you on the call are probably a Mariners fan or whatever. Frankly, it doesn't really matter. The A's are the best, hands down, even when they don't win. So if you ever want to talk trash, that's one way you can get at me. So the first things we're going to talk about that actually are work-related are going to be some housekeeping things. And a lot of it will probably sound like we're beating a dead horse. And I don't want to ever do that, but sometimes it is necessary. First thing is a reminder about your login. We've had this crop up again where people are sharing their one-site login. That's a big no-no. In fact, if we catch you doing it, you can be written up, and it actually is grounds for termination. We don't normally jump to that immediately, obviously, but it is an extremely sensitive thing. So even if you're not doing it, if you know someone on your site that is, please let them know to stop and have them request a reset of their password. It's a pretty big deal. We have that policy for a very specific liability reason. So please make sure nobody at your site is taking it lightly. We've had issues in the past, and we make sure that we avoid those in the future. The next thing was about link. I'm sure you have heard about this ad nauseum from myself or other people. If we visited your property, we have probably tried to make you install it. We're really trying to push this. So I'm going to very quickly show you how to do it. And I'm not one on homework assignments, but if you have the ability to take what I show you and help everyone else install it on their computer, it is a very valuable tool. So I'm going to very quickly show you how to do it. When you open up a web browser, you just simply go to portal.office.com. Type in your email address, the full thing. That was very loud, sorry. You click on the settings and then click for Office 365 settings. You click on software, link, and then install. It's really that easy. It's free for you to use, and it will enable you to chat with anyone who has a work email address. And if you guys have microphones or webcams set up on your computer, it will allow you to communicate that way as well. I don't always do those ones. What I usually use it for is the ability to share a screen in our conversations. So if you have a question or help desk problem month end, and you talk to me through link, I can quickly show you my screen or you can show me yours, and we can directly look at the problem without having to go through a third-party thing like GoToMeeting. We can just do it while we're talking. It is extremely useful. We've had a lot of success with it so far. So for the next few months, until we know everybody has it, we are going to continue to harp on it. So really, if you can, please help your property get Link installed. It's pretty fast, as you saw, pretty easy, and everyone should have access on their computer for it so that it's not a problem. All right, and the next broken record item is help desk. Even though I'm advocating Link, it's a great way of communicating, not only with corporate but with the other sites. We do want you to still continue for right now emailing helpdesk@HorizonRA as much as possible. Again, I know you've heard this a million times, but we have to keep bringing it up because we have a lot of people not following this. Now, a lot of the stuff that we cover in these type of calls, even though it's accounting or for the account managers or whoever covers accounting, it's kind of for your property in general. And anything that we communicate that is valuable for your site, we kind of expect you to go back and educate your staff on. And this is one of them. It may be really simple, something we've covered a million times, but it is extremely important because we have various schedules at the corporate office. We want to make sure that we get you the help you need. But when you email us directly, it might sit in our inbox. If I'm on a site visit or Stephanie May is off or whatever the case may be, if you email us directly, you may not get the help you need as quickly as you need. We're really making a new effort to minimize the turnaround time for any kind of support ticket. I feel like we've always been pretty responsive in the past, but we're really trying to double down on that effort, and it will really help us if you can email that helpdesk@HorizonRA email address to make sure that we can cut down on our response time to you. Last thing I want to kind of pound in your head is the file library. I don't know if any of you are actually using it, but if you go to horizonra.com and you actually click on the file library, I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not use Internet Explorer when you're going into the file library. Internet Explorer is, the best way I can say it, Internet Explorer is kind of like a teenager. Its mood changes by the day. We never know quite how to interpret it, and it doesn't interact well with the file library. Use Firefox or Chrome. We know that it works. It will stream videos better. It will function much better. Every time I get, well, I'd say 99% of the time when I get an email about the file library not working, it's because you're trying to access the files using Internet Explorer. So please, 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 please use Google Chrome or Firefox when using the Internet or when using the file library. Okay, so that's my last little housekeeping item. I want to discuss a few things that are more general perception, general office things for this call before I turn the time over for Stephanie May for the heavy lifting. When I worked on site, I prided myself in having a good time. I tried to work hard, but everyone has worked in an office where it's a little bit rigid. There's kind of a sense of strictness in the air. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, but when there's not a lot of fun going on. So I have a quote I want to show you from Charles Schwab. It says, "The man who does not work for the love of work, but only for money, is not likely to make money nor find much fun in life." Now, I'm biased, but I happen to think that people doing the accounting on the site level are the hardest workers in the office in terms of what it gets put on your plate. So a lot of times it's easy to get lost in what you're doing. But when you make it fun, it makes it that much better. When I worked at Fairstone, this was many years ago, a property we no longer own, I actually worked in an office with Anthony Collins, who's out in Texas now, and with Lauren. He was the office manager at the time. And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of leasing contests. We had a lot of resident events or things that we would do around the property to be productive while also having a good time. And we found that it really did help with the office cohesion and with our relationship with the residents. So it's easy to get caught up in, nose to the grindstone and get things done, but you really need to try to make sure that you're having a good time doing it. Now, obviously, you have to have limits. It's still work, but try to enjoy what you're doing because it's very apparent when you do and when you don't. Recently, our company has been really pushing web calls, and sometimes I'm glad, and other times I'm not so glad because I'm one of those that when I'm stressed, I don't hide it well. So when I'm having a good time, people can tell. So it rubs off on others. So that's one of my points of the day. Try to do your best to have fun. My next point is courtesy, attitude, and persistence, as in regards to everything, but more particularly with delinquency. We've had a few account manager switchovers in the last few months. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the business. People get promoted, people, leave the company, all those type of things. And inevitably, whenever we have that change, we notice a few things. And one of the things that we notice is that sometimes people that are coming into it with maybe less experience than their predecessor have a more open attitude about everything. They don't think that they know everything. They're willing to listen and try new things. And a lot of times we'll see actually an uptick in the delinquency collection as they're really trying to dig in. They're not complacent. They're really trying to have a positive attitude about it. When people are calling you, please make sure to be as courteous as possible. Again, I know this is probably something you've heard a million times, and when people are talking to you, they're not always polite. Before the call started, Courtney and I were discussing how when people find out that you handle accounting, a lot of times their attitude about you changes because somehow you're responsible for them owing money. But it's amazing when you're polite with people, when you have a good attitude, and when you're persistent, how often you can get a positive result. Whenever I talk about delinquency, I always emphasize one main thing, and that is to make yourself the priority. You can do that in a very polite manner, but people are going to want to take care of you if you make yourself their priority. You emphasize, the strong relationships you might have with them. They get to know you. You emphasize really the end result of everything. People need to fully understand how it's going to play out for positive or negative. And if you do all those three things combined, you have good courtesy, good attitude, and good persistence, your delinquency numbers will reflect that. We're pretty aggressive with what our expectations are at the site levels with delinquency, but we know that it can be achieved. Very rarely do people have perfect delinquency every month, but there can be vast improvement. And we've seen that on a lot of sites when we've just focused on a few things, maybe doing a new delinquency calendar, really staying on top of it. It can make a difference when it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. And that kind of ties next into another point I wanted to make, which is taking ownership. It's something that is easy to really fall into when you're in an office setting, is where you start saying, this is my job, this is your job. That's not what I mean when I say take ownership. When I worked at a property, I took ownership by believing in the property and really taking the property as mine, all aspects. Now, it's not saying that I was going out and doing everything, because I actually started in maintenance, and I was pretty lousy at it, so I didn't want to continue with maintenance when I was moved to the office, but I still cared about the appearance of the property. I still cared about the opinions of people who lived on the property. I tried to make sure that I knew everything about the accounts. They weren't just names. Now, I know that can be a dangerous game because you might get too attached to people, but people know when you're being sincere and you care, and when you truly know what's going on, it helps. I have a lot of examples of account managers that go the extra mile to get to know the people that they're talking to, and they're not waiving late fees every month or doing things like that, but they're showing that they truly do care about the person, and it makes a difference. People's willingness to make you that priority will only increase when you take that ownership and really make the property's success tied to your own. It's something that is very easy to kind of sway from, like I mentioned, when you get very segmented at the site level. So just really try to focus on that. The overall property picture is your goal. Its success is your success, and vice versa. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to quickly do before I pass on to Stephanie May is I wanted to point out one quick thing. Historically, we've had a lot of people that are trying to access information in one site, and they're not necessarily sure where to pull it from. And a lot of you, I bounced back to the contact level details report. So some of you have probably fiddled with that. So I want to just take a moment to run through it. And I'm going to use Village Green as an example. Oh, delightful. Just a moment. Now, this report can be used to gather a lot of information, but the most common request is, I want a spreadsheet that gives me all of our residents' email addresses or cell phones. What's the easiest way to do it? And a lot of times, historically, we've pointed you in this direction, but we haven't maybe given you enough detail to get what you need. So as you go through this, there's a lot of different options, but really quickly, I'm just going to show you if you want just email addresses. I'm going to select their first name, I want their last name, I want their unit number, I want their email address, and I want to make sure that this is only going to be for current people. And this is where we struggled before, is that we couldn't figure out exactly how to make it only current people. So we'd have you pull the lease dates and have you sort it that way. Well, now we know how to do it. You can select lease level occupancy status, and then once you've selected that, you can actually select here to edit the column report properties, and this will let you actually narrow that so that only these people that you select are showing on your list. So by default, I'm guessing most of you'd want the applicants, waitlisted applicants, and current residents. So you can select that, and that will make it so that you don't have those previous people on the report. You can switch it to Excel, generate, and it should be able to give you that information pretty quickly. It's a report that is very valuable as you're trying to gather information such as birth dates, phone numbers, demographic information. All of this can be dealt with through the contact level details. Just know that on some of them, if it doesn't necessarily look like it gives you enough information, that there's probably drill down information that you need to find. So that's his Village Green, all the current people, unit, first name, last name, and their email address. And it should have applicants if they had any at the bottom. So that's the one thing I kind of wanted to show you. The last thing that we wanted to talk about, I'm going to turn the attention or the time over to Stephanie May, and she's going to run through a few items. Are you ready, Stephanie?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I'm ready.
You're fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter, and you should be good to go.
Alrighty, so what I'm going to talk about today is two different things. The first one is going to be triggering a portal account for somebody that doesn't have one set up, whether they're a current resident or somebody on the wait list. And then the second one is just to go over pre-authorized payments. So the first one, I'm going to do the portal account. So it's going to be the same way for both somebody on the wait list or that's already a resident in the system or assigned to a unit. So what you do is just view their account and then click edit next to the name under contacts, and you'll type in their email address. And then you'll need to click save before proceeding to the next step so it registers that that email address is now in their account. And then go back into edit. And then you just go to this far right tab that says resident profile. And it is suggesting a login name for me. If you don't want that one, you can change it, or you can have it suggest a different one. And then you can just click save. And so we're going to say, yes, we're changing the email address and login name. And it will then email the resident or prospect or applicant this thing right here. And this is exactly what they'll see. It'll be a hyperlink to the web URL, their username, and their temporary password that will prompt them to change their password once. I'll show you that email real quick. And this is the email that they get. And then they can change it and then make their payment, enter service request. If they're a resident or if they're an applicant, they can still make their payment. Just click cancel, and that's about it. If it's a resident that maybe forgot their password or doesn't remember the password or whatever, you can come in and just say reset password, and we'll just say yes, and it will send them an email just like the previous one with the reset password for them to go in and change their password and proceed. So that's how to trigger the online portal. The next thing we're going to do, or I'm going to show you, is pre-authorized payment. So you can do this for somebody that's on the wait list or as a resident. The most common one I would say is probably resident. But you would just go over to this tab that says pre-authorized payment next to scheduled billing, and you can see a history of pre-authorized payment set up, or you can go and set up a new one. When setting up the pre-authorized payments, you can do two different types, and I'm going to touch on both of those. You can do an ACH payment from a checking or savings account, or you can process it as a credit card. So all the information will, or not all the information, a lot of the information for like the resident, or if they're assigned a unit, their email address, that will auto-populate in there as long as you're in their account. You'll want to make sure you select the correct start date as to when it's going to start, and then the frequency. If it's just a one-time payment, if it's a monthly or whatever it is, you'll need to make sure you select that correct frequency. This is a super important part of this. There's a couple different options you can do. Open balance up to the amount, fixed amount, always pay my current balance plus future charges, or percentage of balance due. The open balance, what that means, it will, let's say we put our payment amount as $200, but your ledger only shows that they owe $100. If you choose open amount, it's only going to take out $100 because that's the only open amount that's on their ledger. So if they want to, let's say, prepay for the next month or something like that, you need to make sure you select fixed amount. I would probably always recommend doing fixed amount so you're processing exactly what the resident agrees to, and so everyone's on the same page as to what amount's being processed. So I would always choose that fixed amount. Then down here is where you'll check if it's a savings or a checking account or a credit card, and you'll need to fill in the required information. And then this checkbox down here is just saying that we have some sort of authorization to process this bank account or card account. RealPage does have an authorization form that we can use. If you guys don't have something like this or and would like this, I can customize it to your property and send it out to you. And then you can always keep this in their file so they can't ever come back and say, well, I didn't authorize you to do that payment. And you can say, well, we have this signed authorization form. So that's what this little box here is for. And then you can just, once everything's in, this finish button will be black and you can process it, and then it will just show up right here. We tried getting some fake payment information that we were unable to obtain before the call, so I can't show you exactly how to process it, but that's the gist of it. Another thing, when you are entering the amount on this form right here, this amount needs to, if it's a credit card especially, it needs to include the credit card fee. And you typically, most sites charge anywhere from 2.5% to 3% for a credit card fee, but you would need to manually add that into the payment amount as well as manually charge that onto the ledger. If the residents are making an ACH payment in the office, so this form but with a checking or a savings account, there typically isn't a fee for that. If they do it online, there is a $2.50 fee, but in the office there isn't. And then that should be everything you need to process that. Okay.
Great. Does anyone have any questions about this? I know everyone's been kind of quiet, probably muted, but this was the major point of the call. We wanted to kind of go through this. So does anyone have questions or come across any issues on their site about doing this?
It's Mia at Chase.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great.
On that, I was taught to put in one time and then enter the number of occurrences. So like one time, and say if it's through July, put in like 6 payments or whatever, instead of doing it monthly. Is that an issue? I haven't had any issue with it.
If you do it, if you select one time, it automatically defaults to number of occurrences 1. Whereas monthly, you can change it. So you can say, okay, it's for 4 months. But if you select just one time, then it won't let you change that number of occurrences.
Oh, it lets me change. Like I'll put in 6 times or 7 times. I haven't had a problem with it. I just wanted to see if I should change the way I'm doing things.
I think that's odd that it's letting you, the frequency says 1 time and the number of occurrences is 6. Next time you come across setting up one of those, can you contact Clint or I so we can take a look at that to make sure it is set up correctly?
Yeah.
Cool. That would, yeah, because it's 1 time. One time should only mean the 1 time. So I'm curious to see exactly what you're seeing. So next time you have one of those, if you could just reach out to one of us, I'd be happy to look at that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, and one other thing I wanted to point out goes along with this. If you're setting up a recurring ACH, pre-authorized recurring, if it's after the 1st of the month, it's not going to kick on until the 1st of the next month. Doesn't matter what date you have to start it, unless they fix that particular bug. It was something that we had the issue with in the past, where you're setting up on the 2nd, that wasn't actually kicking in to the first of the next month, regardless of what you put the start date. So just be aware of that as well. That has been an issue in the past. So with this and anything else, if you guys have additional follow-up or need for one-on-one attention through a meeting, let us know. Happy to take a look and work through these issues with you. As we get used to Grace Hill, hopefully we can continue to monitor attendance. You might have a post-test. If you do have a post-test, I believe the keyword is green, so you probably need to know that. We'll try to take a look at who came, try to put this recording on there as well. We also want to put the request out there. I've mentioned in the past, if you guys have certain things, broad topic issues that you want us to review or think could be valuable to have discussed on the call, please let us know. We're always looking for topics to go over because we want this call to be valuable. We don't want it to just be me preaching about certain things or us randomly selecting topics. We want it to be what is the most value to you, and the best feedback from that is from you. So please let us know, and we're happy to accommodate that. Otherwise, that's all we had for today. We appreciate you guys taking the time to join us. We love doing these calls. The key word is green, the color green. There you go. I will try to get more creative in the future, but that was as taxing as I wanted to put my mind through at the time. So thanks again. You're all free to go. Appreciate your guys' time, and have a great day.
Thank you.